Howdy Loxlings, we are gathered here today to discuss the underappreciated masterpiece that is Pixar's Cars 2. This was their 12th movie and their first to not be nominated for Best Animated Picture since the awards introduction, not like the Oscars know anything. And many reviewers regard it as the worst Pixar movie, as well as being the one that led to the company's downfall. We are gathered here today to set the record straight. Cars 2 is a cinematic masterpiece and it's time it gets the respect it deserves. Okay, argument number 1, it's not as bad as Brave. Okay, thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to give that like button a big juicy kiss. Good night. Wait a second. I'm not going to be able to get this video out by April Fool's Day. Does that mean I have to do an actual analysis of Cars 2? An actual analysis of Cars 2. Cars 2 is the sequel to Doc Hollywood and in all regards does not really feel like it. The original was a movie about a racer who learns to slow down and enjoy the finer things in life, and in the end learns that winning isn't everything. Cars 2 is focused instead on the rambunctious sidekick's misadventures in a spy thriller action plot. Now I need to know that the original Doc Cars did not meet too much critical acclaim. It was labelled as a misstep in the careers of Pixar and the disgraced John Lasseter. Nowadays there has been a slight push towards re-evaluating the movie as actually an underrated gem, but in the end this movie did teach Pixar a lesson. Cars does not mix well with the plot of a 1991 rom-com movie. But they also learned that this franchise did have potential. The original Cars was a success at the box office, however the real money came from merchandising. So, with Cars 2 they created a more merchandisable story. This shows little children how you can play with cars. Don't you want to make extravagant stories of espionage and explosions and murder? Then you should definitely buy some car toys, from us specifically. This provides an answer for a commonly posed criticism with the original Cars. Why are the cars in Cars cars? In the first film, there's absolutely no reason whatsoever, probably because it was written to be about humans. But here in Cars 2, the fact that they're cars brings a new sense of childlike fun and wonder to the story, contrasted with the more gritty elements. Cars provide that bridge between the real-world action and adventure, and also childish stories of playing with toys, allowing the story to have a childlike appeal and provide a more action-packed story. Now, a lot of people complain about the usage of Mater as a protagonist in this movie. I disagree with this. In the first film, McQueen already learned his lesson. Putting him through a spy plot would be pointless. But we can't just not make a Cars sequel, we need money. So instead, they provide a unique story through the perspective of Mater and giving him his own arc and lesson. They only backed out of his story when Cars 2 was a critical flop. I also think that it manages to build on the original film's meaning. The first film was about slowing down and appreciating the finer things, but the sequel is about when that calmer environment, represented by Mater and McQueen's friendship, gets overpowered by more busyness and action, aka the spies and racers. It puts their friendship to the test and shows off a mirror of the original film's plot and manages to bring it to a similar ending. It provides the same message, focusing more on the contrast and showing it through the perspective of Mater. It puts their friendship to the test and it's fun to watch how they adapt to it. So no, I don't think this is some great portrayal of the original Doc Hollywood's theming. This sounds a lot like my review of The Nightmare Before Christmas. Providing Mater's perspective also allows for different interpretations of the theme. Mater is very unique to McQueen, so an entire movie focused on him can be just as good as one focused on McQueen. Mater is just a fun protagonist to follow as we see him responding to increasingly insane situations and provides a much better story than if McQueen were the hero. I personally never really felt invested with McQueen's arc in the original film. He goes from one extreme to the other and it's just not believable to me. Additionally, he feels like he has no personality. Honestly, Mater's arc is just a mirror of Lightning's, and it gives us an inverted perspective of their friendship too. So it manages to redefine several less successful elements of the original story in order to provide a more engaging story experience, but manages to still keep intact some of the more important and interesting elements of the original story and build upon them. I've already talked about how they build on Mater and McQueen's friendship with this spy thriller action plot, inverting their original arcs and providing Mater with a contrasting environment for him to live. But it also works in some smaller examples of the world building. For example, in the first film, there's a bit of a metaphor for a class divide in the car society, but this is expanded on in Cars 2 with the introduction of the more elite cars in the spy society and their perspective of characters like Mater, which they are contrasted with, like how McQueen was contrasted with Mater's character in the original movie. It's also just a fun movie. The pacing is snappy and gets right to the meat and potatoes of the story, except I'm vegetarian, so just the potatoes for me. It constantly gives us action and fun scenes, and I do enjoy a lot of the story elements. The story is fast, but it's not fast to a fault. It's fun, and you know what cars are known for? Being fast. The speed adds to that previously mentioned element of it feeling like a game children can play with their official Cars branded merchandise. Okay, we're 1,000 words into this script, not accounting for ad-libs, so let's talk about what a lot of you might be thinking. Is your argument that this is just a junk food movie? I think that's the right term for it. Hey Siri. Hey Siri. Hey Siri. A junk food movie. What is it? What's a junk food movie?
Okay, I found this on the web for junk food movie. No, what is it? What's a junk food movie?
No, that's not
Check
what
it out.
No, I didn't mean that. And yes, it may be, but it's a good junk food movie. Pixar clearly learnt from the first Doc Hollywood that making an entertaining story is much more successful than an actually good story that you didn't write. So they put more attention into making it a good movie for its target demographic. It's a good junk food movie, and it does have some attempts at deeper meanings. I do genuinely think that it is written off for more trivial flaws. Put a pin in that. I think Cars 2 is often misjudged due to its placement in the context of Cars and Pixar and animation history. But yes, it is a shame that this encouraged more less creative and worse movies. But in a vacuum, I think that Cars 2 is perfectly satisfactory. Now, Cars does not exist in a vacuum, and I do talk a lot about judging movies in context on this channel, but sometimes it is good just to take a step back and look at a new perspective. Okay, that was a transition. Now let's look at a new perspective by removing that pin and talking about some common criticisms. Let's look at IMDb. Literally every complaint here is just about plot holes. Okay, not every complaint. There are plenty of ones talking about other things, but the vast majority is just complaining about events in the movie being impossible or highly unlikely, and relying on some leaps in logic. Now, these plot holes and inconsistencies with the pre-established rules of the Cars franchise are tangible flaws, but in watching any movie you're expected to suspend your disbelief at least a little bit, and focusing too much on these plot holes can rob you of finding legitimate value and enjoyment out of a movie. So I won't deny that Cars 2 isn't without its flaws. Those flaws might even be rather large. But I think it's time that this film gets the treatment the other two Cars films are getting. It's time people who enjoy this movie, because we do exist, start talking about their own perspectives on it and our experiences and understandings of specific elements. As much as I made it out that I dislike people who dislike this movie, I do not. I was playing it up for the comedy, and I hope some people can recognise that. I think all perspectives and opinions on media should be given a chance, even if we disagree. They all have value. But that goes both ways. If more people were to talk about good experiences they had with films generally considered bad, or bad experiences they had with films generally considered good, then maybe we could introduce a more diverse array of opinions into the discussion about specific movies, rather than forming one general consensus about any given movie. So I implore you, watch Cars 2, or any other movie with a very strong general consensus. You may like it, you may not, but at least you'll come out with a good video idea.